like to say is the other evidence, and I don't know if you've heard of the Yale case, which is a case that was in Italy. It started in 2002 and finished in 2011, and the Yale case was basically about the Vatican radio. There were 19 children who had, I think it was 19, who had died from leukemia, childhood lymphatic leukemia, and basically they were saying that and claiming that it was caused by the radiation from the towers. Now, what had happened, it went through, the Vatican obviously protested and, you know, got a lot of money behind them. And in the end, the court ordered a medical report to be done by the Italian Department of Health, and they came back with a 300-page report that said that the radiation indeed caused the leukemia, and therefore the Vatican radio were liable. So in effect, what the end result was that a Vatican cardinal, also the director of Vatican Radio, was sentenced to jail, and then it was suspended later. But the reality is they got a jail sentence, and they also had to compensate the parents, the families of the children that had died in the village. Now, if that's not evidence, here we've got court evidence to indicate that yes, there is problems with this. What's really important that everyone has to understand is this. In 2002, the World Health Organization, okay, made a declaration to the world on the advice of the International Agency for Research on Cancer that children should not be exposed long-term to any radiation over 0.3 of a microtesla, because there is a close association between that exposure and childhood lymphatic leukemia, okay? Very, very important. So this is the World Health Organization saying the magnetic field from non-ionizing radiation, there is a consistent association between that exposure and childhood lymphatic leukemia in 2002. All right. Now, to give you an idea, the mobile phone I'm talking to you on right now, I have studies that show that my mobile phone irradiates 6,200 microtesla. That's just my phone. So you imagine what the towers are going to do, the satellites, the high altitude platform stations that are circling up space, in the stratosphere and so on. How much more electromagnetic radiation we're being exposed to. So kids should not be exposed. And if you Google World Health Organization right now, you'll see, and you Google, you'll see under long-term exposure, it says 0.3 of a microtesla. But even they say there's no established health effects, which is absolutely outrageous. It's certainly, you know, the activation of various viruses that are dormant in our system, which we've genetically been there for hundreds of thousands of years in our system, are now unfortunately being reactivated.
Yeah, I just want to add some other relevant information. At 60 gigahertz, it's acknowledged by the telecommunication industry, also independent science, that oxygen molecules absorb EMF radiation at 60 gigahertz. And the analogies, it's like food in a microwave.
Yes.
Getting heated up, everyone. So I've done a lot of towers. I've been measuring and studying. I've been around maybe 2.8 gigahertz, at most 3 right now. And I feel the oxidative stress. I have trouble breathing, Raymond.
Yeah. Yes.
But at 60 gigahertz, we're talking about severe oxidative stress to the point where people may collapse. And that could be corresponding to Wuhan.
Yes.
Like the videos.
You have a look at the reactivation of the dormant viruses, and they mention oxidative stress all the way through it.
Yes.
This is exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
60, use that frequency because it does deplete the oxygen, and it's apparently the waves to go a lot quicker through through space. But the reality is that yes, they know that it does deplete it. It is causing some real issues, and my concern more so than anything is that the reality is it's actually touching and penetrating our bodies non-consensually, and it's indiscriminate irradiating of you and I. And if you don't want it to be touched or penetrated by this radiation, you have the right in your own home to say, I do not want to be touched by this radiation. They're setting up infrastructure all over the place, and 4G is, look, 5G can run on 4G infrastructure, and that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
The reality is they're setting up the infrastructure. You'll get these little small cells on telegraph poles all over the place. They're putting up high altitude platform stations, which are these drones that circulate in the sky. They're equivalent to 1,800 base stations.
Wow.
You've also the satellites that are up there. To give you an idea, they're launched from Australia in Wyndham here in Australia. You'll find that they're putting up the whole infrastructure up there. Elon Musk is putting up thousands and thousands of satellites, as you know. That we're looking at around 100,000 satellites with Verizon and other companies and so on. Now, you're probably wondering what this is all about, and I'm going to quickly explain this to you, Stephen. It's not just about data, and it's not just about communications. It's also about power, what we call wireless power transfer. Now, you're wondering why Mr. Musk is getting involved is because his name's Tesla, and we all know about what Tesla's about. And it was about sending electricity around the world without cable. And what they're doing is they're setting up a thing called a wireless power transfer. So basically, the reason they're putting these small cells on your telegraph poles and the satellites and everything is they're going to be sending electricity through the airwaves, through electromagnetic energy, to power your mobile phone, your electrical devices in your home, and they're all being implanted with a 60 gigahertz chip, and it's all designed to basically have electricity basically streamed down to your electric car, etc. So you can walk down the streets without being having to rely on placing your device into a power point in the wall, into a socket into the wall. So check it out. It's called wireless power transfer. Raytheon are the main people behind it. It's been around since the 60s, and they've actually been, they've now really put it into a fine art form. So 5G is about not only data, it's also about transferring of electricity. They're harvesting electricity with the satellites through solar power that comes down through the platform stations, and it's really an electricity grid is what we're talking about. And we're going to be bathed in electromagnetic radiation. And as I said to you, there's a concern with 0.3 of a microtesla from the World Health Organization. It's still there for kids and leukemia and the activation of the dormant virus. So this is a real reality is the radiation is no different. It's the same stuff.
Yeah.
Just because you term it, the radiation, if it's at extremely low frequency at say 1 hertz, and then you go up to 60 gigahertz or 120 gigahertz, whatever it is, it's still the same stuff. It's still electromagnetic radiation, whichever name you want to call it. Now, the thing is, if you go up higher up the spectrum, you keep going up in higher frequency, you're hitting nuclear. You're hitting, it's nuclear. There is no difference between nuclear radiation and the radiation being affected by. The only difference is the cycles per second it's hitting you. So nuclear radiation is going a lot faster than 60 gigahertz. That's the only difference between the stuff.
But it doesn't matter. It's still fast, 60 gigahertz. 60 billion times a minute.
What they're doing is they're getting so close to nuclear, and they're really stretching the boundaries. What we call nuclear, and to gamma radiation, those sorts of things. We're talking about ionizing, so they're getting so close to the spectrum, it's not funny, and this is the problem. And for simply some person one day saying there's ionizing, non-ionizing, to try and differentiate between the two is absolutely wrong in my opinion. Because at a certain frequency, it's when it changes. It affects the nucleus and affects the DNA and all that sort of stuff. Well, hang on, it's still the same stuff. If I'm being exposed to cyanide, it doesn't matter if it's a small dose or a high dose, I'm still being exposed to this crap. Okay, so, but there's only a certain percentage of cyanide. Once you get to a certain level, that's when it's going to harm you. Well, hang on, I'm still being affected by arsenic or cyanide or whatever you want to call it. I'm still being electrocuted by this stuff. Okay?
Yeah, fair enough. But still, the independent science is saying it has single double strand breaks.
That's correct.
That's at the nuclei level. It's breaking it. That's ionizing radiation.
Yes.
So that graph they have, non-ionizing, ionizing, to me, it's fraudulent.
Well, it's extremely misleading.
Yes, it is.
which
It's
it,
not
it, it
accurate. It's not accurate.